Bass thundered through the nightclub like a heartbeat gone wild. Aurora Lane sat frozen at a corner table, surrounded by chaos she couldn't feel. Neon lights painted her porcelain skin in shades of crimson and electric blue. Bodies moved everywhere, dancing, laughing, drinking. The world was celebrating. But her hands trembled. 22 years old, stunningly beautiful, and terrified beyond words. Across from her sat the reason for everything. Dante Caruso. Handsome in that reckless, dangerous way that had stolen her heart. His dark eyes watched her with concern, his jaw tight with emotion. He leaned forward suddenly, grabbing both her shaking hands. "Aurora, why are you so scared? Everything will be fine." She yanked her hands back, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "No, it won't be fine, Dante." Her voice cracked. "Running away from home, we made a mistake. You don't know how powerful my family is. How ruthless." She swallowed hard. "And yours is the same. We're both from Italian Mafia families. We should never have fallen in love." The truth hung between them like smoke. Aurora Lane and Dante Caruso. Two names that should never have been spoken together. Their families were enemies, rivals in blood and business. And yet, love had found them anyway. Dante's face hardened with determination. "I won't leave you alone. Stop crying about this." His voice rose with frustration. "If you cared so much about your family, you wouldn't have run away with me in the first place." Tears spilled down Aurora's cheeks. She opened her mouth to respond, but the words died in her throat. Behind Dante, a shadow emerged from the crowd. Her blood turned to ice. A man, tall, devastatingly handsome, but his face was carved from stone, and his eyes burned with fury. Massimo Caruso, Dante's older brother, the Mafia boss, the killer, the legend. "No," Aurora whispered. Dante saw her expression change. He turned slowly. "Brother?" Dante's voice was small, shocked. How did I find you?" Massimo's voice was cold, controlled, lethal. "The entire family has been hunting you like dogs, and her family too." His gaze flicked to Aurora for just a second, a blade of ice cutting through her. Was she really worth this? Aurora couldn't breathe. She sat perfectly still, fighting every instinct to run. Dante stood up, fists clenched. "I love her. We made this choice together." "Love?" Massimo stepped closer, towering over his younger brother. "You think love matters in our world?" "It matters to me." Dante's voice broke with emotion. "And if you really cared about me, you'd understand." Massimo's jaw tightened. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something almost human. "I respect that you made this choice," he said quietly. "But you need to leave. Now. Right now." Before Dante could respond, gunfire exploded through the club. Screams erupted. Glass shattered. People scattered like leaves in a storm. Aurora's family had found them. Chaos consumed everything. "Run!" Massimo roared. Dante didn't hesitate. He grabbed Aurora's wrist and bolted toward the back exit. But he didn't look back. Not even once. Aurora's heart shattered as he dragged her through the panicked crowd. The man she loved, the man she'd risked everything for, was running, saving himself. Tears blurred her vision. "This is what my love was worth, nothing." They burst through a side door into the alley. A gunshot cracked through the night. Dante's body jerked forward. He collapsed onto the wet pavement, blood spreading beneath him like spilled wine. "Dante!" Aurora screamed. More gunshots, more shouting. Her family's soldiers were everywhere now. Inside the club, Massimo moved like a demon. His gun blazed in the darkness, taking down attackers with ruthless precision. Bodies dropped around him. But his eyes found Aurora through the chaos. She stood frozen in the doorway, staring at Dante's bleeding body. Their eyes met. Time stopped. Massimo made a decision. He holstered his gun, strode through the carnage, and grabbed Aurora by the arm. She tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. "Let me go." "Shut up." He dragged her toward the nearest booth, shoving her down onto the leather seat. Then he sat beside her and pulled her roughly into his lap. Aurora gasped, eyes wide with shock. "What are you—" Kiss me, Massimo commanded, his voice low and dangerous. What? No. Kiss me. Now. If you want to live. His dark eyes bored into hers. Your family won't just kill me. They'll kill you too for betraying them. My brother's been shot. I don't know if he's alive or dead. So unless you want to die tonight, do exactly what I say. Aurora's mind spun. Fear, confusion, grief. But something in Massimo's eyes told her he wasn't lying. Her family would kill her. She leaned in. Their lips met. The world exploded with sensation. Heat, danger, forbidden contact. His hand slid to the back of her neck, holding her in place. To anyone watching, they looked like lovers lost in passion. Not enemies hiding in plain sight. Footsteps thundered past their booth. Aurora's family soldiers swept through the club, searching, hunting. But they didn't see the couple in the shadows. The soldiers moved on, disappearing into the night. Massimo pulled back, his jaw tight. Let's go. He grabbed her wrist and yanked her to her feet. Aurora stumbled as he dragged her toward the back exit, her mind reeling. They burst outside into the rain-soaked alley, and Aurora saw him, Dante, lying in a pool of blood, his eyes open, staring at nothing. No, her legs gave out. Massimo caught her, his arm around her waist. He's alive, Massimo said through gritted teeth. Barely. Sirens wailed in the distance. We need to move now. But Aurora couldn't look away from Dante's broken body. The man she loved had abandoned her, and the man she feared had just saved her life. Everything had changed. The darkness had only just begun. The Caruso mansion was drowning in grief. Massimo dragged Aurora through the front doors, his grip bruising her wrist. Rain dripped from their clothes, leaving a wet trail across marble floors. Aurora's legs barely worked. Her mind kept replaying the image. Dante, bleeding, dying. Because of her. Please, she whispered, voice breaking. I can't go home. If I go back to my family now, they'll kill me. Massimo stopped abruptly. He spun to face her, and the fury in his eyes made her flinch. You got my brother killed, he snarled. And you still want mercy? Tears streamed down Aurora's face. She couldn't speak, couldn't defend herself, because he was right. Massimo stared at her, at those tears glistening in the dim light. Something flickered across his face. Anger, pain, something else he couldn't name. He looked away. Come on. Before Aurora could process what was happening, the main hall erupted with voices. Massimo's family emerged from the shadows like wolves scenting blood. His father, Don Lorenzo Caruso, stood at the top of the grand staircase. 60 years old, silver-haired, eyes like frozen steel. Who is that? Lorenzo's voice cut through the air. Massimo's mother appeared beside him, her face pale with grief. His uncles, his cousins, all of them staring at Aurora with murder in their eyes. That's her, someone hissed. The Lane girl. The enemy's daughter. The bitch who got Dante killed. Aurora's blood turned cold. Lorenzo descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate, dangerous. You brought her here? His voice was deadly quiet. You brought the girl responsible for your brother's death into our home? Father, she dies tonight. Lorenzo's hand moved to the gun at his waist. No! Massimo stepped in front of Aurora, blocking his father's path. The entire room went silent. Massimo. His mother's voice trembled. Move aside. That girl. I know who she is. Massimo's jaw was tight. And I need time to think. Think? His uncle Marco stepped forward, face twisted with rage. Your brother is dying in a hospital because of her, and you want to think? I want to find a solution. The solution is simple. Marco pulled his own gun. We kill her. Right here, right now. Aurora couldn't breathe. She pressed herself against the wall, trapped, surrounded by grief-stricken predators. Marco raised his weapon. Massimo moved like lightning. He grabbed Marco's wrist, twisting hard. The gun clattered to the floor. Touch her! Massimo's voice was ice and fire. And I'll break your arm. Have you lost your mind? Marco shouted. Maybe I have. Massimo's eyes blazed. But she's mine to deal with, not yours. Father and son locked eyes across the hall. A battle of wills. Finally, Lorenzo spoke. You have until morning, then we decide together. It wasn't a compromise, it was a warning. Massimo nodded once. He grabbed Aurora's arm again and dragged her up the staircase, past his mother's hateful glare, past his cousin's murderous whispers. They reached the second floor. Massimo shoved Aurora into a bedroom and slammed the door behind them. The room was beautiful. Dark wood, expensive furniture, heavy curtains. A prison made of silk and shadow. "Stay here," Massimo commanded. "Don't make a sound. Don't even think about leaving." Aurora backed against the far wall, hugging herself. "Why are you keeping me alive?" Her voice was barely a whisper. Massimo turned to face her. In the lamplight, she could see the exhaustion in his face. The pain. "Because you're valuable," he said coldly. "You're Elaine. Your family will do anything to get you back." Understanding dawned in Aurora's eyes, horror mixed with realization. "You're going to use me. I'm going to make them pay." Massimo's voice was sharp as a blade. "For every drop of my brother's blood, for every tear my mother sheds, your family will apologize. They'll compensate us. They'll give us everything we demand. And then maybe I'll let you live." He moved toward the door. "Wait." Aurora's voice stopped him. Is he... Massimo's hand froze on the doorknob. His shoulders tensed. "He's in surgery, 50-50 chance." The door slammed shut. A lock clicked. Aurora was alone. She collapsed onto the bed, sobbing into her hands. Everything had fallen apart. Dante was dying. She was a prisoner. And the man who saved her life hated her with every fiber of his being. Outside the door, Massimo leaned against the wall, eyes closed. He could still hear her crying. It made his chest ache in a way that terrified him. Focus, when he told himself. She's the enemy. Use her. Break her family. Get justice. But when he closed his eyes, all he saw was her face. Terrified, beautiful, broken. He pushed off the wall and headed downstairs. The family was gathered in the study. His father sat behind the massive desk, fingers steepled. "Well?" Lorenzo asked. Massimo straightened his shoulders. "The girl is leverage," he said firmly. "The Lanes have been our enemies for 3 generations. They've taken our territory, killed our men, destroyed our businesses." He paused. "Now we have their precious daughter." His Uncle Marco leaned forward. "You think they'll negotiate?" "I think they'll do whatever it takes to get her back alive." Massimo's voice was steel. "We make them apologize publicly. We take back the docks. We demand compensation for Dante's medical bills, and for the insult. And if they refuse..." His mother's voice was hollow. Massimo met her eyes. "Then Aurora Lane dies, slowly." The room fell silent. Finally, Lorenzo nodded. "You have 3 days. Make contact. Set terms." His eyes hardened. "But if Dante dies, the girl dies too. No negotiations." "Understood." Massimo left the study and climbed the stairs again. He paused outside Aurora's door. Inside, the crying had stopped. He pressed his palm against the wood just for a moment. "What am I doing?" He didn't have an answer. All he knew was that Aurora Lane had become the most dangerous person in his world. Not because of her family, not because of the war, but because when he looked at her, something inside him broke, and he couldn't afford to break. Not now, not ever. The warehouse sat at the edge of the city like a wounded beast, abandoned, dark, perfect for secrets and blood. Massimo stood in the center of the empty space, arms crossed, face carved from stone. His family flanked him, father, uncles, cousins, all armed, all ready. Outside, car engines rumbled to a stop. The Lane family had arrived. Massimo's jaw tightened as the warehouse doors creaked open. Shadows moved in the doorway. Then they stepped into the light. Vincent Lane entered first. Aurora's father, 60 years old, silver-haired, with eyes like frozen lakes. Behind him came his brothers, his soldiers, his enforcers. No one smiled. No one spoke. The two families faced each other across the concrete floor, decades of hatred crystallized into this single moment. Vincent's gaze swept the room until it landed on Massimo. "Where is my daughter?" His voice was winter itself. Massimo didn't move. "Safe. For now. I want to see her." "You'll see her when we're done here." Massimo stepped forward. You know why you're here, Vincent. Your daughter ran away with my brother. Your men shot him. He's fighting for his life in a hospital. Vincent's expression didn't change. Your brother stole my daughter. They were in love, Massimo said coldly, a concept that means nothing to men like us. But the damage is done, and now you'll pay for it. Lorenzo Caruso stepped beside his son. Our terms are simple, the old Don said. You will apologize, publicly. You will return the docs you took from us 5 years ago. You will pay for Dante's medical expenses, all of them. He paused. And you will compensate us for the insult to our family. The warehouse was silent except for the distant drip of water. Vincent Lane stared at Lorenzo, then at Massimo. You're bankrupting us. Yes. Over a girl and a foolish boy. Massimo's eyes blazed. Over blood and honor. Vincent's jaw tightened. His hands clenched into fists. For a moment, violence hung in the air like electricity before a storm. Then Vincent spoke, each word costing him everything. We accept your terms. The Caruso family exchanged glances. Victory. Cold and bitter, but victory nonetheless. The apology will be made tomorrow, Vincent continued. The docs will be transferred within the week. The money wired within 48 hours. His voice dropped to a lethal whisper. Now give me my daughter. Massimo turned without a word. He walked to a side door and opened it. Aurora stood there, flanked by 2 Caruso soldiers. She looked smaller somehow, fragile. Her eyes were red from crying, her face pale as moonlight. When she saw her father, she froze. Aurora? Vincent's voice was empty of emotion. She walked forward slowly, like a prisoner approaching execution. Massimo watched her cross the warehouse floor. He told himself he felt nothing. This was business. Justice. Revenge served cold. But when Aurora passed him, their eyes met for just a heartbeat. In that moment, he saw everything: fear, sadness, and something that looked like goodbye. She didn't speak. Neither did he. Aurora reached her father. Vincent gripped her arm not gently and turned toward the exit. If I see any of you near my daughter again, Vincent said without looking back, there will be war. There's already war, Massimo replied. We're just pausing it. The Lane family left. Car doors slammed. Engines roared to life. And then they were gone. The warehouse fell silent. Lorenzo clapped his son on the shoulder. You did well. We've destroyed them financially and broken their pride. Massimo nodded mechanically. But as his family celebrated, he felt nothing. Nothing at all. Hours later, Massimo stood in his bedroom, pacing like a caged wolf. The house was quiet. His family had gone to the hospital to check on Dante. Massimo had stayed behind, claiming exhaustion. But he wasn't tired. He was restless. Aurora's face kept flashing in his mind. Those eyes. That fear. She's home now, he told himself. She's with her family. This is over. But something gnawed at him. He'd seen the way Vincent Lane looked at his daughter. There had been no relief, no love, just cold, measured fury. Massimo had been in the Mafia his entire life. He knew that look. It was the look of a man planning punishment. His heart suddenly slammed against his ribs. They'll kill her. The thought hit him like a bullet. Aurora had embarrassed her family, made them bow to their enemies, cost them money, territory, pride. In the Mafia, that kind of betrayal had only one ending. No. Massimo's voice was harsh in the empty room. He grabbed his phone, then stopped. Why do I care? She was the enemy's daughter. She'd helped his brother get shot. He should want her dead. But instead, all he could see was her face, terrified, broken, beautiful. Massimo ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. This was insane, irrational, dangerous. And yet, he thought about Vincent Lane's cold eyes, about Mafia justice, about what they did to daughters who betrayed the family. His chest tightened. She's going to die. The realization settled over him like ice water. Aurora Lane was going home to her execution, and he'd been the one to hand her over. Massimo stared out his window at the city lights, jaw clenched. He'd won. His family had gotten everything they wanted. Justice had been served. So why did it feel like he'd just made the worst mistake of his life? In the darkness, Massimo made a decision. A terrible, foolish, impossible decision. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Someone had to make sure Aurora Lane survived the night, even if that someone was supposed to be her enemy. Massimo burst from his bedroom like a man possessed. His heart hammered against his ribs. His mind screamed warnings he refused to hear. This is madness. She's the enemy. Let her die. But his feet kept moving. Down the stairs. Through the front doors. Into the night air that tasted like rain and regret. He yanked open his car door and threw himself behind the wheel. The engine roared to life. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts, men who owed him favors, informants, spies embedded in rival families. He dialed. Marco. His voice was sharp. Where did the Lanes take the girl? Silence on the other end. Then, Boss, why do you... Where? Their estate, the main house, north side of the city. You know the location. Massimo did. Every good Mafia boss knew where his enemies slept. He ended the call and slammed his foot on the accelerator. The car tore through empty streets, headlights cutting through darkness like knives. The city blurred past him. Neon signs, sleeping buildings, shadows that watched without judgment. Why am I doing this? He didn't have an answer. All he knew was that Aurora Lane was in danger, and something inside him refused to let her die. 20 minutes later, he approached the Lane estate. Massive, Gothic, surrounded by high walls and armed guards, Massimo parked 3 blocks away and killed the engine. He sat in the darkness, breathing hard, checking his weapons. 2 guns, 3 knives. Not enough if he was caught. But enough to try. He slipped out of the car and moved through shadows like a ghost. The Lane estate loomed ahead, a fortress of stone and secrets. Massimo had studied this place for years, memorizing every entrance, every blind spot. Now that knowledge would either save him or kill him. He scaled the eastern wall where the security cameras had a gap. His fingers found purchase on old brick. His muscles burned as he pulled himself up and over. He dropped silently into the garden. Roses bloomed in the darkness. A fountain whispered nearby. Beautiful. Deadly. Massimo crouched behind a hedge, watching the guards patrol. 2 at the front, 2 at the back. 1 roaming. He waited until the roaming guard passed, then moved. Fast, silent, lethal. He reached the side entrance, a servant's door he knew was rarely locked. The handle turned. Inside, the house was quiet. Dimly lit. Massimo moved through hallways lined with expensive art and family portraits. Vincent Lane's face stared down at him from a dozen paintings. Massimo ignored them all. He'd been in enough enemy homes to know the layout. Master bedrooms upstairs, guest rooms on the 2nd floor. Aurora would be in one of those. He climbed the stairs, every sense on high alert. 3rd door on the left. Something told him to stop there. Massimo pressed his ear to the wood. Nothing. He tested the handle. Unlocked. He pushed the door open slowly, gun drawn. The room was dark except for moonlight streaming through curtains. And there on the bed lay Aurora. Massimo's breath caught. She was so still. Too still. He moved closer, heart pounding. Aurora? His voice was barely a whisper. No response. Relief flooded through him. She's alive. Thank God she's alive. I don't know why I came here, he said softly, more to himself than to her. Maybe I'm insane. Maybe your family will kill me. He stared at her sleeping face. But I had to see you. I had to know you were okay. Aurora didn't move, didn't speak. Something cold crawled down Massimo's spine. He stepped closer. Aurora? She lay too still, her chest barely rising. And then he saw it. On the nightstand, a glass, half empty. Clear liquid inside. Massimo's blood turned to ice. He grabbed Aurora's wrist, feeling for a pulse. They're weak, thready, fading. No. He leaned down, looking at her face in the moonlight. Her lips had a blue tinge. Foam gathered at the corner of her mouth. Poison. They poisoned her. Rage exploded through Massimo's chest. Her own family. Her own father. They'd given her poison to erase the shame she'd brought them. To end the betrayal before seeking revenge on the Carusos. Clean, efficient, monstrous. You bastards, Massimo snarled. He holstered his gun and slid his arms under Aurora's limp body. She was lighter than he expected, fragile as glass. Stay with me, he commanded, even though she couldn't hear. Don't you dare die. He lifted her against his chest and moved toward the door. The hallway was still empty. Massimo moved quickly now, abandoning stealth for speed. Down the stairs, through the servants' corridor, past the kitchen where he could hear voices. Did you check on the girl? No need, she drank it all. She'll be dead by morning. Laughter, cold, heartless. Massimo's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. He kicked open the back door and ran. Across the garden, over the wall, through the streets. Aurora's head lolled against his shoulder. Her breathing was growing shallower. Hold on, please hold on. He reached his car and laid her across the back seat. Then he floored the accelerator. The hospital was 10 minutes away. Too far, too long. Massimo drove like a demon, running red lights, taking corners that made tires scream. He glanced in the rearview mirror. Aurora's face was pale as death. Don't leave, he said through gritted teeth. I didn't save you just to watch you die. Why did he care? Why did this girl, this enemy, matter so much? He didn't know. He only knew that losing her felt like losing something he'd never even known he needed. The hospital appeared ahead, bright lights in the darkness. Massimo screeched to a stop at the emergency entrance. He threw open the back door and scooped Aurora into his arms. Help! He roared. I need help now! Doctors and nurses rushed forward. What happened? Poison, Massimo said. She was poisoned, maybe 30 minutes ago. They lifted Aurora onto a gurney. Someone shone a light in her eyes. Someone else started an IV. Sir, you need to step back. Save her! Massimo's voice was steel and desperation. Whatever it takes, save her. They wheeled Aurora through double doors that swung shut in his face. Massimo stood alone in the fluorescent hallway, covered in sweat, Aurora's warmth still lingering on his skin. His phone buzzed. A text from his father. Where are you? Massimo stared at the screen. Then he turned the phone off. He'd just committed treason against his family. Saved the daughter of their greatest enemy. Declared war on everything he was supposed to be. And he didn't regret a single second. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and death postponed. Massimo stood beside Aurora's bed, motionless as a statue. Hours had passed. The night had bled into early morning, painting the sky outside a bruised purple. He hadn't moved. Hadn't sat. Hadn't left her side. Aurora lay beneath white sheets, tubes running from her arms, machines beeping softly. Her face was still pale, but color was slowly returning to her lips. She was alive. Barely, but alive. The doctors had pumped her stomach, administered activated charcoal, fought the poison spreading through her veins. They'd said she was lucky. Another hour and there would have been nothing they could do. Lucky. Massimo stared at her sleeping face. She was murdered by her own father. The thought burned through him like acid. He'd seen terrible things in his life. Violence, betrayal, blood spilled over power and pride. But this, poisoning your own daughter because she'd fallen in love, it was a darkness even he couldn't comprehend. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. Finally, Massimo pulled it out. Father calling. He stared at the screen, jaw tight. Then he answered, Where the hell are you? Lorenzo's voice was sharp. Controlled fury. It's 5 a.m. You disappeared without a word. I'm handling something, Massimo said flatly. Handling what? Business. Silence crackled on the line. Lorenzo wasn't a fool. He could hear the lie. Massimo, come home now. I can't. That wasn't a request. Massimo looked at Aurora, at the rise and fall of her chest, at the life he'd stolen her back from death's grip. I'll be home when I'm done. He hung up. His father would be furious. There would be consequences, but Massimo couldn't bring himself to care. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. It rang again immediately. Different number. Marco, his contact, his informant. Massimo answered. What? Boss? Marco's voice was urgent. The whole city's looking for you. I'm aware. No, you don't understand. Marco's words came fast. The Lanes know. They know their daughter's not dead. They know someone took her. And they know it was you. Massimo's blood ran cold. How? Cameras, security footage. They saw you at the estate. Marco took a shaky breath. Vincent Lane is calling for war. He's saying your family kidnapped his daughter twice. First Dante, now you. He's telling everyone the Carusos are out of control. His daughter would be dead if I hadn't. He doesn't care, Marco interrupted. He wanted her dead. You ruined his plan. Now he's using it as an excuse to rally the other families against you. Massimo's mind raced. Political maneuvering. Propaganda. Vincent Lane was spinning the narrative, making himself the victim, making the Carusos look like aggressors. Brilliant, ruthless, exactly what Massimo would have done. What are the other families saying? He asked. They're listening. The Morettis, the Russos. Even some of your father's allies are questioning his control. Marco paused. Boss, this is bad. Really bad. Your father is furious. He thinks you've lost your mind. Maybe I have. This isn't a joke. The war you prevented 3 days ago, it's happening now, because of you. Massimo looked at Aurora again. She stirred slightly, her eyelids fluttering. Let it happen, he said quietly. What? I said, let it happen. Massimo's voice was steel. Vincent Lane tried to murder his own daughter. I'm not apologizing for saving her life. You're choosing her over your family? The question hung in the air like smoke. Was he? Massimo thought about his father, his mother, his uncles and cousins, the empire built on blood and loyalty. Then he looked at Aurora, broken, betrayed, alone. I'm choosing what's right, he said finally. Marco laughed bitterly. Since when do we care about right and wrong? Since now. You're insane. Probably. Another pause. Then Marco's voice dropped. They're going to come for you. Your family. Her family. Everyone. Let them come. Boss, thanks for the warning, Marco. Stay safe. Massimo ended the call. He turned off his phone completely this time. The room fell silent except for the steady beep of Aurora's heart monitor. Alive, she's alive. That was all that mattered. Massimo pulled a chair close to the bed and finally sat down. Exhaustion crashed over him like a wave. He hadn't slept in 36 hours. But he couldn't sleep yet, not while she was still vulnerable. He reached out slowly and took Aurora's hand in his. Her skin was cool but warming. Her fingers were delicate, fragile. I don't know what I'm doing, he whispered to her sleeping form. I've started a war for you, betrayed my family, destroyed everything I've built. She didn't answer. And the worst part? His voice cracked slightly. I don't regret it. He squeezed her hand gently. You were supposed to be nothing, just leverage, just an enemy. He shook his head. But somewhere between rescuing you and watching you almost die, something changed. Aurora shook her head, tears streaming freely now. You don't understand. In our world, love is weakness. Love is betrayal. I knew that. I knew the rules. To hell with the rules. The words hung in the air. Massimo crossed back to her bedside. He gripped the rail, leaning close. I've lived my entire life following rules, he said quietly. Honor. Loyalty. Blood before everything. His dark eyes locked with hers. But when I thought about you dying, when I imagined your father killing you, all those rules meant nothing. Aurora's heart pounded. Why? I don't know. His voice was barely above a whisper. I've been asking myself that all night. They stared at each other. The machines beeped softly. The hospital hummed around them. But in this moment, they were the only two people in the world. You started a war for me, Aurora said softly. Didn't you? Massimo didn't deny it. Yes. Your family will hate you. Probably. My family will hunt you. Let them. Aurora searched his face, looking for the lie, the angle, the manipulation, but all she saw was exhaustion. Truth. Something that looked terrifyingly like care. I don't understand you, she whispered. A ghost of a smile touched Massimo's lips. I don't understand myself anymore. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away her tears. Aurora's breath caught at the gentleness. This man, this dangerous, violent mafia boss, was touching her like she was made of glass. When I found you dying, Massimo said softly, something inside me broke. I realized. He paused, struggling with words he'd never said before. I realized that I couldn't let the world take you away. Why? Aurora's voice trembled. Because somewhere between hating you and saving you, I started caring about you. The confession fell between them like a bomb. Aurora's eyes widened. You barely know me. I know enough. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I know you cried for my brother, even though he abandoned you. I know you were brave enough to run away for love. I know you have tears in your eyes even though you almost died. His voice dropped. And I know that when I look at you, I feel something I've never felt before. What? The word was barely a breath. Massimo leaned closer, his forehead almost touching hers. Hope. Aurora's heart shattered and rebuilt itself in the same moment. This shouldn't be happening. They were enemies. His brother had been her lover. Her family had tried to destroy his. Everything about this was wrong. And yet, I feel it too, she whispered. Massimo's eyes closed briefly, as if her words physically touched him. When he opened them again, they burned with intensity. Then let me protect you, he said. Let me keep you safe. From my family? From everyone. His hand slid from her cheek to cradle the back of her head. I don't care what it costs. I don't care who I have to fight. You're not going back to people who would poison you. Aurora's tears fell faster now. You're insane. Completely. This will destroy everything. I know. We'll both end up dead. Maybe. Massimo's lips curved into a dark smile. But at least we'll die knowing we chose each other over the world that tried to break us. Aurora laughed through her tears, a broken, beautiful sound. You're really insane. You said that already. I'm saying it again. Massimo's smile softened into something genuine, something real. Rest, he said gently, easing her back against the pillows. You're still weak. What happens next? I don't know. Honesty in every word. But whatever it is, we'll face it together. Aurora's hand caught his wrist as he started to pull away. Don't leave, she said quietly. I won't. He settled back into the chair, keeping her hand in his. I'm not going anywhere. Aurora's eyes drifted closed, exhaustion pulling her under, but for the first time since Dante had abandoned her in that nightclub, she didn't feel alone. Massimo watched her fall asleep, his hand wrapped around hers. Outside, war was coming, but in this moment he had her, and that was enough. The cottage sat hidden in the woods like a secret. Small, stone walls, ivy climbing the sides, surrounded by trees that whispered in the wind. Beautiful, isolated, perfect for hiding. Massimo carried Aurora inside, her body still weak from the poison. She protested softly, but he ignored her, kicking the door closed behind them. The interior was surprisingly warm. Wooden floors, a fireplace, comfortable furniture. Nothing like the cold mansion he called home. Where are we? Aurora asked as he set her down on the couch. Somewhere safe. Massimo moved to the windows, checking the perimeter. No one knows about this place. Not even my family. Aurora pulled a blanket around herself, suddenly aware of how alone they were. How long are we staying? Until I figure out what to do next. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Again. It had been buzzing constantly for hours. Massimo pulled it out, glanced at the screen. Father, 47 missed calls. He turned it off completely and tossed it onto a table. They're looking for you, Aurora said quietly. Let them look. Massimo. I said let them look. His voice was sharp, but his eyes were tired. I'm done taking orders. Done following rules that end with innocent people dying. Aurora looked away. I'm not innocent. You're more innocent than any of us. Night fell quickly in the forest. Massimo made a fire. Aurora watched the flames dance, mesmerized. The warmth felt foreign after so much cold. They ate in silence. Bread, cheese, wine. Simple food that tasted like luxury. Why do you have this place? Aurora asked finally. Massimo stared into the fire. Everyone needs somewhere to escape. Even monsters. You're not a monster. He laughed darkly. You don't know the things I've done. I know you saved my life, twice. That doesn't erase the blood on my hands. Aurora studied his profile. Strong jaw, dark eyes reflecting firelight, shoulders carrying invisible weight. My father tried to kill me, she said softly. My own father. Because I embarrassed him. She pulled the blanket tighter. What does that make him? A monster, Massimo said without hesitation. Then maybe we're all monsters. Maybe it's just different degrees. They fell silent again. Outside, wind rustled through trees. An owl called in the distance. Tell me about Dante, Massimo said suddenly. Aurora's breath caught. What? My brother. You loved him. Tell me about it. Pain flickered across her face. Why? Because I want to understand. He turned to look at her. I want to know what made you risk everything. Aurora's eyes glistened with unshed tears. He was kind, she whispered. In a world full of violence, he was gentle. He made me laugh. Made me believe that love could exist even in darkness. She paused. But when the shooting started, he ran. He left me there. He was always weak, Massimo said quietly. I tried to make him strong. But some people, they're not made for our world. Is he alive? Yes. Recovering. Massimo's jaw tightened. But he's asked about you. Guilt is eating him alive. Aurora looked down at her hands. I don't love him anymore. The words hung in the air. Why not? Massimo asked. Because love that abandons you in danger isn't real love. She met his eyes. Real love stays, even when it's terrifying. Something passed between them. Understanding, connection, heat. Massimo stood abruptly. You should sleep. Take the bedroom. I'll stay out here. Massimo. Good night, Aurora. He walked away before she could say more. Midnight. Aurora lay awake in the small bedroom, staring at the ceiling. She could hear Massimo moving around in the main room, pacing, restless. She understood. Sleep felt impossible when the whole world was hunting you. Carefully, quietly, Aurora slipped out of bed. She moved to the window and looked out at the dark forest. Freedom was right there, just beyond the glass. She could run, disappear into the trees, take her chances with the night. Her hand touched the window latch. Do it. Run, before this gets more complicated. But her hand froze. Where would she go? Back to a family that had poisoned her? Into a city where she was worth more dead than alive? Aurora's reflection stared back at her in the glass, lost, broken, afraid. Her hand touched the window latch. Do it. Run, before this gets more complicated. But her hand froze. Where would she go? Back to a family that had poisoned her? Into a city where she was worth more dead than alive? Aurora's reflection stared back at her in the glass, lost, broken, afraid. She unlatched the window. It swung open with a soft creak. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of pine and possibility. Aurora climbed onto the sill. Strong arms wrapped around her waist and yanked her back. She gasped as Massimo spun her around, his face inches from hers. What are you doing? His voice was low, dangerous. Leaving, Aurora said, heart pounding. Letting you go before I destroy your life more than I already have. By running into the forest alone, in the middle of the night? I'll manage. You'll die. His grip tightened. Your family is out there. My family is out there. Half the city wants you dead. And you think you'll just manage? Aurora lifted her chin defiantly. Better than staying here. Why? Massimo's eyes burned into hers. Why do you want to leave so badly? Because I'm afraid. The words burst out of her. I'm afraid you're lying. I'm afraid this is some game. I'm afraid you're going to kill me like your brother almost died because of me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You'll take revenge. Eventually. And I can't watch it coming. Massimo stared at her. Then slowly he released her waist. You're right, he said quietly. Aurora's heart dropped. If you go outside, you're going to die. He stepped back. Your family will find you. or mine will, or you'll freeze in the forest." His voice was cold now, controlled. "So if you want to die, Aurora, then die here, by my hands. At least it'll be quick." She stared at him, shocked. "What? You think I'm going to kill you anyway, right?" He spread his arms. "So let's get it over with. No more waiting, no more fear." Aurora's breath came fast. "You're insane. You've said that before." He moved closer. "But here's the truth. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead already. I've had a dozen chances. In the nightclub, in my house, in the hospital." His voice dropped. "But I didn't take them. Do you know why?" Aurora couldn't speak. "Because every time I look at you, I see something worth saving." Massimo's hand cupped her face. "Even if you don't see it yourself." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm so tired of being afraid," she whispered. "Then stop running." His forehead touched hers. "Stay. Fight with me. Let's survive this together." "What if we can't?" "Then at least we'll die knowing we tried." Aurora's hands came up to grip his shirt. "You're really, really insane." "I know." She laughed through her tears, broken and beautiful. Massimo closed the window behind her and locked it. "No more escape attempts," he said. "What if I try again?" His lips curved into a dark smile. "Then I'll catch you again." "Every time?" "Every time." They stood in the moonlight, breathing the same air, existing in the same impossible moment. Finally, Aurora spoke. "I'm not ready to trust you." "I know. But I'm not ready to run either." That's enough. For now it was. Morning light filtered through the cottage windows like liquid gold. Aurora woke slowly, her body still aching but stronger than yesterday. She could hear sounds from the main room, the clink of dishes, the crackle of the fireplace. She wrapped the blanket around her shoulders and padded barefoot to the doorway. Massimo stood in the small kitchen, his back to her. He'd rolled up his sleeves, and she could see the strong lines of his forearms as he moved with surprising grace. He was cooking. The sight was so unexpected that Aurora froze. This man, this dangerous mafia boss who'd killed people, started wars, ruled an empire of blood, was standing at a stove making breakfast. "I know you're watching me," Massimo said without turning around. Aurora jumped slightly. "How?" "I always know when you're near." He glanced over his shoulder, and something in his expression made her heart skip. "Sit. Food's almost ready." She moved to the small wooden table and sat down, pulling the blanket tighter. Massimo brought over a plate, scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit. Simple but beautifully arranged. "You cook?" Aurora couldn't hide her surprise. "Don't sound so shocked." He set a mug of coffee beside her plate. "I lived alone for years before taking over the family. Had to learn." I can't imagine you doing something so normal." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Even monsters have to eat." Aurora picked up her fork. The eggs were perfect, fluffy, seasoned, just right. "This is really good," she admitted. "Don't sound so surprised." They ate in comfortable silence. Sunlight warmed the room. Birds sang outside. For a moment, Aurora could almost forget the danger surrounding them. Almost. Massimo watched her eat, something soft in his dark eyes. "You need to keep your strength up," he said. "The poison took a lot out of you." Aurora nodded, suddenly aware of how weak she still felt. After breakfast, Massimo cleared the plates and turned to face her. "Let me see your neck." Aurora's hand flew to the back of her neck instinctively. "What?" "You hit your head when you collapsed at your father's house. There's a wound." His voice was gentle but firm. "It needs to be cleaned and bandaged." "I can do it myself." "Aurora," he moved closer. "Let me help you." Something in his tone made her surrender. She turned in her chair, pulling her hair to the side and exposing the back of her neck. Massimo's breath hitched audibly. The wound was worse than she'd realized. A deep gash where she'd hit the nightstand, angry and inflamed. "Christo," he muttered. "Why didn't you say something?" "It didn't seem important." "Your pain is always important." The words settled over her like a blanket. Massimo disappeared for a moment and returned with a first aid kit. He pulled a chair close behind her and sat down. "This might sting," he warned. His fingers were impossibly gentle as he cleaned the wound. Aurora tensed at first, expecting pain. But Massimo's touch was so careful, so tender, that she found herself relaxing. "You're good at this," she said softly. "I've patched up a lot of injuries over the years." His voice was close to her ear, warm breath ghosting across her skin. "Usually my own." "You get hurt often?" "Our world isn't kind to anyone, not even to those who rule it." Aurora closed her eyes as he applied antiseptic. The sting was sharp but brief. "Sorry," Massimo murmured. "It's okay." His fingers worked with practiced efficiency, cleaning, applying ointment, carefully placing a bandage. But there was something else in his touch, too. Care, real genuine care. "Done," he said finally. But he didn't move away. His hands rested lightly on her shoulders. Aurora could feel the heat of him behind her, solid and strong. "Massimo?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why are you being so kind to me?" His hands tightened slightly on her shoulders. "Because no one else ever will be," he said quietly. "Your family tried to kill you. My family wants you dead. The whole world sees you as a pawn." His voice dropped lower. "I want you to know what it feels like to be cared for, even if it's just for a little while." Aurora's eyes burned with tears. She turned in her chair to face him. They were so close now, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, the shadow of exhaustion on his face, the tiny scar above his eyebrow. "No one's ever taken care of me like this," she admitted. "Not even Dante?" She shook her head. "Dante loved the idea of me, the rebellion, the danger." She met Massimo's gaze. "But he never actually saw me." "Then he was a fool. He's your brother, and I love him." Massimo's jaw tightened. "But that doesn't make him any less of a fool for not seeing what was right in front of him." Aurora's heart hammered in her chest. "What do you see?" Massimo's hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb brushing across her skin with devastating gentleness. "I see a woman who's been broken by a world that didn't deserve her." His voice was rough with emotion. "I see someone brave enough to choose love, even when it meant losing everything. I see scars and strength and a heart that still beats, despite everyone trying to stop it." A tear slipped down Aurora's cheek. "I see you," Massimo whispered. The words broke something open inside her. Aurora leaned forward, and suddenly the distance between them disappeared. Their foreheads touched. Breath mingled, hearts beat in chaotic rhythm. "This is dangerous," Aurora breathed. "Everything about us is dangerous. Your family can go to hell. My family already tried to kill you. They don't get a say anymore." Aurora's hands came up to rest on his chest. She could feel his heart pounding beneath her palms. "What are we doing?" she asked. "I don't know." Massimo's hand slid to the back of her neck, careful to avoid her wound. "But I can't stop." "We shouldn't." "I know. This will end badly. Probably." "Then why?" "Because for the first time in my life, I don't care about the consequences." His eyes burned into hers. "I only care about you." The confession hung between them like a flame. Aurora's resolve crumbled. She closed the final distance between them. A phone rang. They jerked apart, the spell broken. Massimo cursed under his breath and grabbed his phone from the table. He'd turned it back on to check for updates about Dante. The screen showed an unknown number. Something cold settled in his gut. He answered. "Yes?" A voice crackled through. "Massimo Caruso, we need to talk." Aurora watched his face change, saw the warmth drain away, replaced by cold steel. "Who is this?" "Vincent Lane, Aurora's father." The world stopped. "I know where you are." Vincent's voice was ice and death. "I know what you're doing, and I'm giving you one chance to survive this." Massimo's eyes locked with Aurora's. War had found them. Even here, even now, there was no more hiding. "I'm listening," Massimo said, voice cold as winter. Vincent Lane's voice crackled through the phone. "You have something that belongs to me." "Aurora doesn't belong to anyone." Massimo's grip tightened on the phone. especially not to a father who tried to poison her. Silence, heavy, dangerous. Then Vincent laughed, a sound devoid of humor. You think you're protecting her? You're signing her death warrant. His voice hardened. Meet me, tonight. Warehouse District, Pier 17. Bring my daughter. So you can kill her again? So we can end this. Vincent paused. Or I bring every family in this city down on your head. The Morettis, the Russos, the Lombardis, all of them. Your family will be wiped out by sunrise. Massimo looked at Aurora. She stood frozen, face pale, understanding exactly what was happening. And if I come, we negotiate, like civilized men. Vincent's tone made it clear. There would be nothing civilized about this meeting. You have 2 hours. Come alone. Bring the girl. Or everyone you love dies. The line went dead. Massimo stared at the phone. Aurora's voice was small. He found us. Yes. He wants to kill me. Yes. What are we going to do? Massimo looked up, and Aurora saw something terrifying in his eyes. Not fear, not surrender. War. We're going to finish this, he said. 1 hour later, Massimo's car tore through the city streets. But they weren't going to the warehouse alone. Massimo had made calls. Short, clipped, commanding. His family was coming. Aurora sat in the passenger seat, hands trembling. You shouldn't have called them, she said. Your father already hates you for this. My father will hate me more if I'm dead. Massimo's jaw was set. And I'm not walking into an ambush without backup. This is going to be a massacre. It was always going to be a massacre. We're just choosing the battlefield. The warehouse district loomed ahead. Abandoned buildings, rusted machinery, shadows that swallowed light. Pier 17 stood at the end of a long road, surrounded by water on 3 sides. Perfect for a trap. Massimo parked a block away. He turned to Aurora, his expression softening for just a moment. Stay in the car. No. Aurora, if I'm the reason for this war, I'm not hiding. Her eyes blazed with determination. I'm tired of being a pawn. I'm facing this. Massimo searched her face. Then slowly he nodded. Stay behind me, always. Always. They stepped out of the car. 3 more vehicles pulled up. Black SUVs with tinted windows. Doors opened. Men emerged. Lorenzo Caruso stepped out first. Massimo's father. His face was granite, eyes burning with fury. Explain, Lorenzo demanded. Explain why you've brought war to our doorstep for this girl. Massimo stood his ground. Because it's the right thing to do. Right? Lorenzo laughed bitterly. Since when do we care about right? Since her own father tried to murder her. Massimo's voice rose. Since I realized that some lines shouldn't be crossed. Not even by us. Lorenzo's gaze shifted to Aurora. She lifted her chin, refusing to cower. You've started something that will destroy us all, Lorenzo said quietly. Then we'll be destroyed together. Massimo's tone was final. But I won't abandon her. Father and son stared at each other. Finally, Lorenzo sighed. You're a fool. I know, but you're my fool. Lorenzo turned to his men. Positions. If the Lanes want war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. The warehouse was dark when they entered. Empty, silent, too silent. Massimo's instincts screamed danger. Then, lights blazed to life. The Lanes were already there. Vincent stood in the center of the space, flanked by 24 armed men. His brothers, his soldiers, an army prepared for annihilation. His eyes locked on Aurora. Daughter, he said, the word dripping with contempt. Aurora stepped forward, Massimo close behind her. Father, she replied, voice steady despite her terror. You've caused me considerable trouble. You tried to poison me. You betrayed the family. Vincent's face showed no emotion. That's the price of betrayal. I fell in love. Love? Vincent's voice exploded through the warehouse. Love is a fairy tale for children. We are Lane. We don't fall in love with Carusos. We destroy them. Lorenzo stepped forward. Enough talk, Vincent. You called this meeting. What do you want? Justice. Vincent's hand moved to his gun. Your son kidnapped my daughter. Twice. Your daughter was dying. Because I willed it! Vincent's mask cracked, revealing the monster beneath. She's mine to punish, mine to control. And this Caruso filth dared to interfere. Massimo moved Aurora behind him. If you want her, he said quietly, you'll have to go through me. That can be arranged. Guns rose on both sides. 20 Caruso soldiers, 24 Lane soldiers. The warehouse became a powder keg waiting for a spark. Wait! Aurora's voice cut through the tension. Everyone froze. She stepped out from behind Massimo, ignoring his protest. This war, all of this, it's because of me. Her voice grew stronger. So let me end it. Aurora, no. Massimo reached for her. She avoided his grasp, walking toward her father. You want to kill me? She asked Vincent. Fine. Do it. But let the Carusos go. This isn't their fight anymore. Aurora, stop! Massimo's voice was anguished. But she kept walking. Vincent watched her approach, gun in hand. You'd sacrifice yourself for him? Vincent gestured at Massimo. For the man whose brother stole you? Whose family we've hated for generations? Yes, Aurora said simply. Because he's shown me more love in 3 days than you've shown me in 22 years. Vincent's face twisted with rage. He raised his gun. Massimo moved. He launched himself forward, grabbing Aurora and spinning her behind him. The gunshot was deafening, time fragmented. Massimo felt the bullet tear through his shoulder. Pain exploded. Blood bloomed, but he stayed standing. Massimo! Aurora screamed. Chaos erupted. Gunfire filled the warehouse. Carusos and Lanes opened fire. Bodies dropped. Blood spattered concrete. Lorenzo Caruso roared orders, returning fire. Vincent Lane shouted for his men to advance. War. Pure, brutal, inevitable. Massimo collapsed to one knee, clutching his shoulder. Aurora dropped beside him, tears streaming. No, no, no. She pressed her hands against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Get out! Massimo gasped. I'm not leaving you! Around them, the battle raged. Men fell. Bullets flew. The warehouse became hell incarnate. Lorenzo fought his way to his son. Get him out of here. 2 Caruso soldiers grabbed Massimo, dragging him toward the exit. Aurora ran with them, holding Massimo's hand. Behind them, Vincent Lane's voice rose above the gunfire. Find them! I want them both dead! They burst out of the warehouse into the night. More gunfire, more shouting. A car screeched up. Doors flew open. Go, Lorenzo commanded. They threw Massimo into the back seat. Aurora climbed in after him, cradling his head in her lap. The car sped away, tires screaming. Massimo's blood soaked Aurora's dress. His face was pale, eyes fighting to stay open. Stay with me, Aurora begged. Please stay with me. Worth it, Massimo whispered. What? His hand found hers, weak but determined. You worth it. His eyes closed. Aurora's scream echoed through the night. Behind them, the warehouse burned. 2 families, 1 war. And the casualties were only beginning. The hospital room smelled of blood and desperation. Massimo lay unconscious, hooked to machines that beeped his survival. Doctors had worked through the night, removing the bullet, stitching torn flesh, fighting death itself. He'd survived. Barely. Aurora sat beside his bed, her hand wrapped around his. She hadn't moved in 12 hours. Hadn't eaten. Hadn't slept. She just watched him breathe. Outside the room, Lorenzo Caruso paced like a caged lion. The war had cost him. 6 men dead. A dozen injured. The Lanes had lost more, but Vincent had escaped. And now he wanted blood. We need to move him, Lorenzo said to his remaining men. Vincent knows he's here. He'll send assassins. Let him try. Aurora's voice was steel. Lorenzo turned to look at her through the glass. This girl, this enemy's daughter, who'd destroyed everything. And yet, he'd watched her fight beside his son, watched her refuse to leave even as bullets flew, watched her cradle Massimo's bleeding body and beg him not to die. Maybe she wasn't the enemy anymore. Maybe she never had been. The door opened. A doctor emerged, exhausted but relieved. He's stable, strong. He'll recover. The doctor paused. But he needs rest. Weeks of it. He doesn't have weeks, Lorenzo muttered. Inside the room, Massimo's eyes fluttered open. Aurora gasped. Massimo? His gaze found hers, unfocused but alive. "Aurora!" His voice was rough, broken. "You're safe." Tears streamed down her face. "You idiot, you almost died. Worth it." A ghost of his dark smile. "Told you, worth it." She laughed through her tears and pressed her forehead against his hand. "Don't ever do that again." "Can't promise that." The moment shattered as Lorenzo entered the room. Father and son locked eyes. "You're alive," Lorenzo said simply. Disappointed? Terrified. The admission cost Lorenzo everything. "I thought I'd lost you." Massimo tried to sit up. Pain ripped through him. Aurora helped him, adjusting pillows, her touch gentle. "What's the damage?" Massimo asked. 6 dead. Vincent escaped. He's rallying the other families. Lorenzo's face was grim. "We have maybe 48 hours before they come for us with everything they have. Then we fight." "No." Lorenzo's voice was firm. "You don't fight, you run." Silence crashed through the room. "What?" Massimo stared at his father. "You heard me." Lorenzo moved closer. "This war, it's not yours anymore. It's mine. It's the family's. But you..." He glanced at Aurora. "You two need to disappear." "I won't abandon..." "You're not abandoning anyone." Lorenzo's voice softened. "You're surviving. You're choosing life over this endless cycle of death." He paused. "Something I should have done years ago." Massimo's jaw tightened. "Father, I've already made arrangements." Lorenzo pulled an envelope from his jacket. "New identities, bank accounts, everything you need to start over." He placed it on the bed. "There's a plane waiting. It leaves in 6 hours." "Where?" "Somewhere they'll never find you. Somewhere you can be... normal." The word felt foreign, impossible. Aurora looked between father and son, her heart breaking. "We can't just leave," she whispered. "Your family needs you." "My family needs me alive," Massimo said quietly, understanding dawning. "And staying here means we're both dead within a week." Lorenzo nodded. "Vincent won't stop. Ever. He'll hunt you until one of you is in the ground." His eyes hardened. "But if you disappear, truly disappear, he'll have nothing to chase. The war will be between families, as it should be." Massimo stared at the envelope. Freedom, escape, life, everything he'd never thought possible. "What about Dante?" he asked. "Your brother is recovering. He's asked about Aurora." Lorenzo's expression softened slightly. "I told him she saved your life. He understands." Massimo looked at Aurora, really looked at her. This woman who'd turned his world upside down, who'd made him question everything, who'd almost died twice and still fought to stay alive. "Do you want this?" he asked her. "A life away from all of this?" Aurora's eyes filled with tears. "I want a life with you. I don't care where it is." Something broke and rebuilt itself in Massimo's chest. "Then we go." 6 hours later, they stood on a private airstrip. Dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. A small plane waited, engines humming. Lorenzo stood with them, his face unreadable. "The accounts are untraceable. The identities are solid." He handed Massimo a phone. "Burn this after you land. No contact for at least a year, maybe longer." "Father, don't." Lorenzo's voice cracked slightly. "Don't make this harder than it is." Massimo embraced his father. 2 men who'd lived by violence, sharing a moment of pure love. "Thank you," Massimo whispered. "Be happy." Lorenzo pulled back, eyes glistening. "Be the man I never could be." Aurora stepped forward hesitantly. Lorenzo looked at her. This girl who'd cost him so much and given him back his son. "Take care of him," Lorenzo said. "With my life," Aurora promised. Lorenzo nodded once. Then he turned and walked away, back toward the cars, back toward the war he'd fight alone. Massimo took Aurora's hand. They climbed into the plane. As it lifted into the sky, Aurora watched the city shrink below them. Everything she'd known. Everything she'd been. All of it disappearing into clouds. "Where are we going?" she asked. Massimo squeezed her hand. "Somewhere quiet, somewhere small, somewhere no one knows our names." And then, we live. He turned to face her, and his smile was real. Genuinely, beautifully real. We wake up every morning without fear. We drink coffee and watch sunrises. We become people we never thought we could be. Aurora leaned against him. Just normal people? Just normal people. It sounded like heaven. 3 months later. The small coastal village in southern Italy was everything they'd never known they needed. White buildings, blue water, narrow streets where everyone knew everyone, but no one asked too many questions. Aurora, now called Lucia, taught English to village children. Her mornings were filled with laughter and simple joys. They lived in a tiny cottage overlooking the sea. Simple furniture, whitewashed walls, a life built on peace instead of war. Every morning they walked along the beach. Every evening they cooked dinner together. Every night they fell asleep in each other's arms, grateful for another day of breathing. "Do you miss it?" Aurora asked one evening as they sat on their porch, watching the sunset. The violence, the power. Massimo Marco shook his head. Not even a little. "Your family? Every day." His voice was honest. "But I chose this. I chose you. I chose life." He pulled her close. "And I'd choose it again. Every time." Aurora rested her head on his shoulder. In the distance, fishing boats returned home. Children played in the streets. The world continued, simple and beautiful. "I love you," she whispered. The words still felt new, sacred. "I love you too," Massimo replied. No titles, no empires, no blood feuds. Just two people who'd found each other in darkness and chosen to walk toward light. Together, always together. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of hope. And in that small village, far from everything they'd known, Massimo Caruso and Aurora Lane became Marco and Lucia. Ordinary people, living in extraordinary love, finally free.